think that means it's recording. As you can probably tell, this is my first video on the tube that is for you. My name is Grumpy Computer Bastard, that is how I've styled myself, or you could call me Andrew, but I prefer G.C.B. now. I've just decided that in the last 30 seconds. The reason I'm putting this electronic piece of celluloid, which isn't celluloid at all because it's just bits really, onto the interweb, is because of a bit of a sort of a brain thing I had the other day. I think it was a Sunday. I was sat in bed, obviously, about 2 PM. I thought it was a bit early to get up really, so I thought, well, I'll relax here. I like doing that, along with my 2012 Nexus 7 tablet, and I was sort of faffing around if the thing ever wants to unlock, and I was like, news. I'll actually press news, this is why it's taking a long time. Boring, news boring. Okay, Facebook, nothing happening, nobody doing anything, no interesting things happening whatsoever. Roast lamb for tea, nobody cares. Okay, boring. Google Play. Let's see if there's anything new on Google Play, which is where people obtain application programs for which to run on their small device. New shit on Google Play. What's there? Oh, wait a minute. Emulators are always fun. Let's have a look for emulators. Hold on. See what we can find. Aha. Emulators. Shit. I have this one. A little program called UAE4Droid on my previous Nexus 7 tablet, which unfortunately had a rather serious conflict with a cup of apple juice and is currently convalescing in a hospice for dying electronics in Shropshire. But anyway, I used to have this very app here on my tablet, and I thought, Amiga emulator. I used to have an Amiga. I loved it. I was like a lover of the Amiga. I mean, literally, I was sort of like, I was emotionally attached to it in a very interesting way. I never licked it very much, but you know, used to have a lot of fun. So I gave it a go. I installed it, found a ADF file, which I would think you are familiar, of a workbench disk, put it in, booted up, little red icon, little red pointer, hey, I'm 10 again, everything's brilliant. And I thought, hang on a minute, I could also put this on my Banana Pi, little single board computer. You might have heard of it, very nice, slightly upgraded version of a Raspberry Pi made by somebody who has nothing to do with the Raspberry Pi Foundation, not sure if they mind that. But I'm using it as a kind of a smart TV thing to turn my dumb TV into a smart one. And I thought, I'll put WinUAE, sorry, not WinUAE, WinUAE, or UAE for Android, UAE4Droid on that, and then I can play it on the sofa. I could even plug in a controller, very nice. Managed to heave myself out of bed by about 3 PM. Got myself to the sofa, installed that, very nice, cool. But there's not that much you can do with it on an Android. It's kind of a bit more limited. You haven't got a mouse and keyboard. I'll put it on the PC. I'll put WinUAE on the PC, which again, as I'm sure many of you are aware, is an excellent Amiga emulator for the modern, boring, square, brown, beige computers that we all currently have. Installed it on there, brilliant. Set myself up as an Amiga 4000 with 78 billion megabytes of RAM. That's an exaggeration. It was about 256, something like that. You know, 68030 processor, all these add-ons and shit like that. Runs very nicely. Played a bit of Gloom, a highly rated, but not that amazing to be honest, first-person shooter for the Amiga. Yes, indeed, first-person shooters for that computer. It was possible. Played around with that for a bit, and then I thought, well, this is it's kind of too easy. And also, hang on a minute, Andrew, you massive tit. You've got an Amiga, you've got one. It's under the telly table over there. Get it out. The Amiga, I mean. So I did, and I got it out, and it was there, and it was yellow, and it got a bit yellow because of the sunlight, as we all know they do. But I plugged it in, and I got my RF modulator out. Never had a monitor for it, so need my RF modulator to connect to a TV. Plug it into the TV, my HD TV, using a SCART cable with some composite connectors to plug into the Amiga itself, into the RF modulator, and you can plug the audio bits into the audio out of that computer as well. Worked very nicely in black and white. Fiddled around with the RF modulator a bit, got the connection right till it was in colour. A little bit dodgy there. Brilliant! Hey, I'm 10 again. Which was nice. And I got myself a little telly out of the spare room, put it on the table, set the Amiga up with the mouse, and I even got the power supply brick, the lovely power supply brick we all love so much, on the table next to the monitor, so I don't have to bend down to turn it on. I'm getting a bit old now. Get it all set up. You know, my old workbench disc 2.04 with a little rainbow symbol. I'll get it, hang on. Where's it gone? Damn all of you to hell. Look at that. Classic 30-year-old, 20-year-old, you know, joy there. Stuck that in, booted up, no problem at all. Very nice, lovely, nice, fast Amiga operating system that never crashes, unlike the one that's in front of me underneath you, the lovely Windows 7, although I do like that operating system, it's not too bad. But anyway, so got that working, and then I thought, oh, that works, cool, just works. That's quite, you know, interesting but boring. And I thought, well, is there any way, now that we have Her Majesty's finest interweb, to download the things, all of the things that I didn't have before, that I now would want to have and wanted then, and would also want now and could perhaps download. So I went online and I did a bit of Googling and a bit of YouTubing, and I found some just very distractingly good videos by users such as Cookie Tech, great wonderful maestro of Amiga shit that he is, great big upwards is to him, and Lazy Game Reviews, cool guy as well. Watched a few videos by him. He did a review of the Amiga amongst millions of other ancient pieces of hardware he has. I'm very, very jealous indeed. Watched a bit of that, and although the word on the street of the interweb was that it was possible to download all those games that you never had in the day but wanted, and put them onto your Amiga and play them on the original hardware, which, as we know, is the right way to do it, all the videos seem to suggest that one would need additional hardware in order to do this, such as the excellent ACA 500 expansion card that I've seen, that I want, that I will be getting at some point, that gives you 2 CF card slots for your Amiga 500. Brilliant, wonderful. You can even boot from one of them, and use it as a hard drive, install Workbench on it, use the other one to just transfer files. Brilliant, marvellous. But it's €98. And I thought, can I justify €98 for that? Possibly not. Googled around a bit more, YouTubed around a bit more, and eventually found a few more videos by people saying that it was possible, but all of them seem to suggest that you need at least some additional hardware, at least an additional external disk drive, which I used to have, but my parents threw it away. You know, or an expansion card or something. Most people seem to suggest that you need additional hardware to do it. Well, I'm here to tell you, my friends, that it is actually possible to download what we call ADF files, which I'm sure you can find by Googling for them. Some people think they're a bit dodgy. I don't. As Mr. Cookie Tech says, after 20 years of not being sold, don't think you're doing any harm by downloading them. I was able to find some and set about transferring them, using them on my Amiga with no additional hardware whatsoever. And that's what I'm going to show you today, hopefully, if it works. Again, it should do its work quite a few times so far. I should say almost no additional hardware. The only extra thing I've got in my 500 Plus, my A500 Plus, which I love and lick and take to bed at night. Now that's an exaggeration, but it's quite nice. The only extra thing I have in there is an extra meg of RAM in the trapdoor slot underneath, giving me a grand total of 2 megabytes of Her Majesty's finest random access memory. Yeah, so here we go with how you do it. what you will need is, as I say, an ADF file of your choice, a program, a game, whatever you would like. Probably a game, isn't it? Yeah. I've chosen today to give you the example of Another World, a classic Amiga game. Many of you might have played either Another World or Flashback, two excellent games by Delphine Software. Brilliant, amazing, wonderful platformers, but good. How does that happen? Only happened on the Amiga. So that's what I've chosen. And what you'll need in addition to your ADF file is you will need a copy of Workbench, such as this one. I will not be using 2.04, I'll be using 2.1, which I downloaded and got onto the Amiga because it's just a little bit better. You will need a working Amiga formatted 880k double density floppy disk. Now, despite the fact that I'm literally swimming in these things, I've got about 200 of them. They do degrade over time. Mine have obviously been stored in unfavourable conditions, and quite a few of them will not format at all anymore. So it's quite hard to find a good one, but here's one. This is an actual original Amiga disk that has formatted fine. You will need at least one, and probably two, 720k PC formatted disks to do the file transfer between the PC and the Amiga. You will need either Workbench 2.1 and above, which has a inbuilt method to detect and use and read MS-DOS formatted disks, or you'll need something like this, a copy of CrossDOS, a program called CrossDOS on a disk, which is the standalone program that allows you to read PC disks. I initially used this because all I had was Workbench 2.04, and which doesn't have it built in, and the copy of CrossDOS, which I fortunately found on a demo disc. Seriously, I had no idea that I had this, never used it at the time, never bothered with it, wasn't interested in it, it wasn't a game. Yeah, I was able to find that. I was quite pleased because I'd read about it online, and that allows me to transfer my files. So, my friends, we will maybe doing a little bit of handy handheld camera shit here now. So I apologise for that. In later videos I might learn how to use a tripod or something. I might even put like words on the video or shit like that, but we'll see anyway. So here we go. First of all, we put one of our blank PC formatted disks into your floppy drive. You will need a PC with a floppy drive, by the way. Stick that in. Now when you download your ADF file, it's probably going to be zipped up. It will need to be zipped up, so if you haven't already done that, you can compress it with a program like WinRAR, freely downloadable online, but as I say, probably when you download it, it will be zipped up in the first place, which is important because poor old Amiga has very little memory and we want it to be as small as possible so that we can both store the zip file and unzip it and have a little unzipping program on the disk at the same time. So here we go. Now, I don't know if you can see very well the screen of my Windows 7 PC here. Not a massively new PC, but it does the job for me. And there we have, as you can see, Another World Disk 1. If we open up the zip file, you can see that it contains an ADF file, an Amiga disk file there, which can be used to write or to create Amiga disks. So what we want to do is simply right click on that. Oh, I'm not pointing at the right screen. Right click on that, copy, go to your floppy drive and paste. Good old floppy disks, speedy shit. Oh, do come along. 526 kilobytes, that is a large one actually. Nearly the full capacity of the disk, in fact. Not far off. Okay, so there we are. You got your zipped up ADF file on a disk. Now, what you will also need, in fact,